When they only respect you when you stop being nice. They only respect you when you stop being nice. And I want you to really sit with that sentence for a moment, because most men misunderstand what that actually means. This is not about becoming rude. This is not about becoming disrespectful. And this is definitely not about turning into someone cold or careless. This is about understanding the difference between being kind and being nice. And most men are not kind. They're nice. And that difference is exactly why they're not respected. You were raised to believe that being nice would take you far in life. You were told to be polite, to be easy to deal with, to say yes, to not make situations uncomfortable, to not upset people, to not be difficult. You were trained to believe that being agreeable is the same as being valuable. So you became the man who always shows up, the man who always helps, the man who always gives his time, even when he doesn't have it. And at the beginning, it feels like it's working. People like you, they smile at you, they keep you around, they come to you when they need something. But slowly, very quietly, something begins to change. People start interrupting you more. They don't listen as carefully when you speak. They delay responding to your messages. They cancel plans with you at the last minute. They start treating your time like it doesn't really matter. And you feel it. You feel that shift deep down, even if you don't want to admit it. But instead of addressing it, you do what you've always been trained to do. You try harder. You become even nicer. You become even more available. You respond faster. You give more. You tolerate more. You excuse their behavior. You tell yourself that maybe they're busy, maybe they're stressed, maybe you're overthinking. And the more you do this, the worse it gets. Because what you don't understand is that every time you tolerate something that disrespects you, you are teaching people how to treat you. You are setting a standard, and your standard is low. And when your standard is low, your value is low. That's the part nobody tells you. People don't respect what is always available. People don't respect what comes with no boundaries. People don't respect what they cannot lose. And right now, you've made it clear that you are not going anywhere, no matter how they treat you. So why would they value you? Let's go deeper into this, because this is where most men completely lose control of their position in life without even realizing it. Respect is not something people give you because you are a good person. Respect is something people give you when they feel your standards. And standards are not what you say. They are what you enforce. Think about your own behavior for a moment. Think about how many times you've said yes when you wanted to say no. Think about how many times you explained yourself when you didn't need to. Think about how many times you accepted behavior that didn't sit right with you just to keep the peace. Every single one of those moments lowered your value, not in your eyes, but in theirs. Because people are constantly observing how you treat yourself. They're constantly measuring what you tolerate. They're constantly testing your boundaries, even if they don't realize they're doing it. It happens in small ways. They reply late, they cancel, they ignore. They push a little further each time, and every time you let it slide, you confirm something. You confirm that there is no consequence for disrespecting you, Nissan. And once people understand that there is no consequence, the behavior becomes permanent. This is not personal. This is human nature. People respect strength. They respect clarity. They respect limits. And if you don't have those, you will always be seen as optional. A man who is always available looks replaceable. A man who explains himself too much looks unsure. A man who tolerates everything looks weak. And I want you to understand something very clearly. Weakness is not about physical strength. Weakness is about the inability to say no. Weakness is about the fear of losing people. Weakness is about needing approval so badly that you sacrifice your own standards to keep it. And the moment people feel that you need them more than they need you, the dynamic changes. You lose leverage. You lose presence. You lose respect. Not because they hate you, but because you have made yourself too easy. At some point, every man reaches a moment where he can no longer ignore what is happening to him. Not because someone tells him, not because someone teaches him, but because the pattern becomes too obvious to deny. It's not one big event. It's a series of small moments that slowly build up until something inside him shifts. It might be the moment someone cancels on him again, without respect for his time. It might be the moment he realizes he was always the one reaching out first. It might be the moment he notices that when he stops initiating, everything goes silent. Or it might be something deeper, something more personal, where he finally admits to himself that he is exhausted from giving more than he receives. And when that realization hits, it's not anger that comes first. It's clarity. A quiet, uncomfortable clarity that forces him to see the truth. That his problem was never other people. His problem was what he allowed. His problem was the version of himself that he created. The version that tolerated everything. The version that gave without limits. The version that believed that being nice would eventually earn respect. And in that moment, something changes. Not externally, internally. He stops looking for reasons to justify other people's behavior. He stops making excuses for them. He stops telling himself that things will improve if he just keeps going the same way. Because now, he sees the pattern clearly. He understands that nothing will change unless he changes. And that realization is uncomfortable because it means taking responsibility. It means admitting that he played a role in how people treat him. It means accepting that his lack of boundaries created his current situation. But at the same time, it is powerful. Because if he created it, he can change it. This is the moment where most men either grow or stay the same. Some men go back to being nice, back to being available, back to being easy. Because it's familiar, because it's safe, because it avoids conflict. But the men who change, the men who evolve, they make a different decision. They decide that comfort is no longer worth the cost of disrespect. And that is where the transformation begins. Not with loud actions, not with dramatic statements, but with a quiet decision. A decision to stop being the version of themselves that people take for granted. The shift does not look dramatic from the outside. There are no big announcements, no confrontations, no need to prove anything. The shift is subtle, but it is consistent, and over time, it becomes undeniable. He starts by saying no, not aggressively, not emotionally, but clearly. When something doesn't align with his priorities, he declines. When something wastes his time, he steps away. When something feels wrong, he listens to that feeling instead of ignoring it. And at first, it feels uncomfortable because he is not used to it. He's used to saying yes. He's used to accommodating others. But now, he is choosing himself. And Shila. He also stops explaining everything. He no longer feels the need to justify every decision, to convince people to understand him, to over-communicate just to avoid tension. He realizes that confidence does not come from explaining. It comes from certainty. And when you are certain, you don't need to talk as much. It becomes quieter, not silent, but intentional. He speaks when necessary. He listens more. He observes more. And through observation, he starts seeing things he missed before. He sees who respects him and who doesn't. He sees who values his time and who only reaches out when it benefits them. He sees the difference between genuine connection and convenience. And perhaps the most important change is how he responds to disrespect. He no longer reacts emotionally. He no longer argues, no longer tries to prove a point, no longer tries to correct people's behavior through words. Instead, he uses distance. He removes access. He pulls back his time, his attention, his energy, because he understands something now that he didn't understand before. That presence is valuable, and removing it is powerful. This is where people start noticing. Not because he said anything, but because something feels different. His availability has changed. His responses have changed. His energy has changed. And when energy changes, dynamics change. Dean Don.
People always react when you change, even if they don't say it directly. The same people who are comfortable with your old behavior start feeling the difference immediately. They may not understand it fully, but they notice it. They feel the absence of what you used to give so freely. The ones who respected you will adjust quickly. They will meet your new standards. They will respect your time more. They will communicate more clearly because they value the connection and they're willing to respect the boundaries that come with it. But the ones who benefited from your lack of boundaries will react differently. Some will question the change. Some will try to pull you back into your old behavior. Some will test you again to see if your standards are real or temporary. And this is where most men fail. Because when that pressure comes, it's tempting to go back. It's tempting to explain yourself, to make things comfortable again, to avoid tension. But this is the test. This is where your new identity is either solidified or broken. Because if you go back even once, if you tolerate the same behavior again, you reset everything. You teach them that your boundaries are not real, that your standards are flexible, that with enough pressure, you will return to who you were. But if you stay consistent, if you hold your ground quietly, if you continue to act according to your standards without needing validation, something powerful happens. People begin to adjust. They begin to treat you differently. Not because you asked them to, but because you forced the change through your behavior. And over time, the dynamic shifts completely. You are no longer the man who is always available. You are no longer the man who is easy to ignore. You become the man whose presence has weight, the man whose time matters, the man who is respected without needing to demand it. Now understand this clearly, because this is where everything comes together. The goal was never to stop being a good man. The goal was never to become cold or disconnected. The goal was to become a man with standards, a man who understands his value and acts accordingly. You can still be kind. You can still help people. You can still be respectful. But now, those qualities come with boundaries. They are not given freely to everyone. They're given to those who respect them. And that is the difference between a man who is used and a man who is respected. You must remember that respect is not something you ask for. It is something you demonstrate through your behavior, through what you accept and what you reject, through what you allow and what you remove from your life. And once people see that you have standards, real standards that you actually follow, they respond to it. This is not about controlling others. This is about controlling yourself, controlling your time, your energy, your attention, because those are your most valuable assets. And once
once you start treating them like they matter, other people will too. So stop trying to be liked by everyone. Stop trying to be easy. Stop trying to be the man who keeps everything comfortable. Because comfort without respect will always leave you empty. Instead, become the man who is clear, who is disciplined, who is selective, and understand this final truth. When you stop being nice, you don't lose people who matter. You lose people who benefited from your lack of boundaries. And that is not a loss. That is clarity. Because the right people will stay. The right people will respect you. The right people will recognize your value without needing you to prove it. And when you reach that point, when you no longer feel the need to chase approval, when you no longer depend on others to feel secure, when you no longer tolerate what disrespects you, that is when everything changes. That is when you become the man who is respected, not because he demands it, but because he embodies it. Become the man who doesn't need to be nice to be respected. Most men will watch this and do nothing. A few will act. If you're one of them, then like, share, and subscribe. This channel is for men who are done being average. If you felt this, you already know